But also Casaplast is now talking very dynamic-y now that they're on the backside of House of Discs.
Well, it's like, right now it's like there's almost this tree, the trilogy tree, if you will, of like, you feel like the top guns are really getting signed to Dynamic, and like you could consider Discmania part of that tree as well. Whereas like, then you kind of funnel into Latitude, then you funnel into West Side, and I feel like Casaplast is like, where are they going to fall? Are they going to be able to get some of those people that go kind of that direction? Like, who's going to end up making the financial decisions? They're obviously all under House of Discs, and who is deciding, like, is it each individual brand, and then do they have to ask House of Discs, or is it their own finance? Like, I'd be really curious to know how that structure works, and like how they, like, is it the type of thing where they're like, okay, here's a player we all want to target, where do they fit best? Like, it's very interesting.
It is a weird one because I almost feel like from the outside looking in, Casaplast has always been like, they're always, people throw them for their plastic. They've been historically more expensive, at least in the U.S., because for some reason,
That
even
import,
though we get discs from Latitude from Sweden, I think Casaplast has always been in Sweden.
That's because they go to Dynamic first.
But regardless, which now Casaplast will be distributed through Dynamic here recently, which is exciting for as a retailer. It's exciting, but Casaplast has always been like, you go there for the plastic, like that's the big draw. Their molds are good, the Berg's good, the Cax is good, the Falk's good. Like they have solid molds, but the big draw is their plastic.
Yeah, I would say one of their draws of the molds is that they have like different molds. They have a lot of unique. People always talk about the Berg, which is obviously unique, but like all of their molds are just a little different. It's like they have a Cax. They're like one of their flagship things is like a 6-speed.
But it almost feels like it's like in cars we see like Toyota and Lexus, right? And they're both turning them out from the same company, but you like market them different, and like the interior is different to where like a high-end Toyota basically is a Lexus, a low-end Lexus basically.
Sure.
But I wonder if Casaplast, like if House of Discs, they've got all of these companies now under them. You have Discmania, you have Trilogy, you have Casaplast. They're all churning out basically from the same machines at this point.
Yeah.
So plastic's all going to keep blending together more and more. It's like in their marketing, I wonder which company they're positioning where, which I think is where the team thing would come in. Because in my head, you could position Casaplast with the pricing and the preconceived thoughts of Casaplast as your like premier best plastic brand. But with the new Supreme plastic being used with all Trilogy, it's a weird line that like now that it's all under someone, I feel like they need to make the brand's identities be like more tiered, if that makes sense.
So do you think that they're still capable of having different plastics for each of those companies
Capable, yes.
Because they each come in with their own ratios of plastic blends and stuff like that?
Well, here's the problem.
I don't think it's happening though.
I'm going to be straight with you.
Okay.
Most recent run of Casaplast, very Trilogy.
I think
like the Cax was just a Lucid Cax.
I think when Discmania and Casaplast came in, and I think Discmania has kind of kept this. I think Discmania came in and Trilogy said, okay, here are the plastics we have. Here's what we're willing to order. Find the blend that you like and make that your plastics. And so that's why I think that when you get a C line, while it does feel Trilogy, it's like a specific blend of Trilogy. It's more of a Lucid Ice.
It's Lucid Ice, yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like they basically chose a Lucid Ice or something very close to it as their C line. And same with S line. It might not be spot on Fusion. Sometimes they come out being very spot on Fusion, but it's pretty close. It might be Fusion. It might be the Fusion Ice or
Royal or whatever it's called.
It's not Royal.
It's not Royal.
Well, their special blend.
Their special
S-line
blend is Royal.
Okay.
But I think that's what's almost happening. It's like Trilogy has a menu, and they're like, okay, you can use any of the things we have for your blends, but like this is what we've got. And I think Casaplast, when they first came in, it took a while, but I think now, like the last one that came in, I was kind of like, yeah, that's.
Do you think that? So I realized that like the Supreme discs and the Royal line and a lot of the Lucid Ice, all that stuff, they didn't start coming out with those plastics till after they had bought Discmania.
Yeah.
So do you think?
Well, Lucid Ice, I think was out.
I don't know if that's true.
But the Royal and Supreme,
at least around the same
Royal
time.
and Supreme, they didn't. Yeah.
So do you
but
think?
No, well,
that
we don't know when they bought Discmania.
Well, yeah, but do you think that there's a possibility that
they just bought Discmania last month?
Yeah. Well, yeah. But do you think there's a possibility that they what you're saying, Trevor, where they're like, oh, you can make your own blend or whatever, and they're like, well, this is too good, like we're gonna put it in the rest of our companies too.
No, because the Supreme
didn't start with those. That's
Supreme, they have to make like special molds to use.
Okay.
Yeah, Discmania, the first thing we had in an S line plastic was actually the first Cloudbreakers, and they were just dead on fusion plastic. Like I had one and they were spot on, which was fine. But that's just nowadays. It took, because now if you get a Cloudbreaker, I believe they are using the Royal or Supreme line. So like originally they didn't have that. I don't know, and it's weird it's weird too because like when I talked to Discmania, like a year ago, before they were bought, before they were like even switching over their main. No, this is when they had just switched over. Like they were still talking a ton about innovating plastic and like experimenting with different things and like different materials. And it's just like, I wonder what happens to that when you get absorbed like this. And it's kind of like, well, I feel like all that stuff at the very top is not really up to you anymore.
Well, because the weird thing is, let's say that Latitude 64, right, who is the manufacturer. They've always been the biggest disc golf manufacturer. Well, not always, but for a long time, they've been the biggest disc golf manufacturer.
Yeah.
They're now the factory that's churning all this stuff out, right? Even Discmania bought, allegedly, Latitude 64 machines when they moved in next door to them when they were still separate. Like Latitude is like the guys. So let's say they come up with the next version of Supreme or Royal line plastic. They come up with the Lucid version of Supreme plastic, right? If you're House of Discs, what do you do with that? You know what I'm saying? Because like right now it feels like, oh, we have it. We can just throw it to everyone under different names.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's where like I think Castoplast already has a slightly higher price point. That's Castoplast plastic. You know what I'm saying? And like start to separate it.
Right. It's overwhelming.
Because like if you're a trilogy,
difficult though. Because if you're
so many brands.
Because if you're Dynamic and Castoplast is the same plastic, but they're making something awesome. What stops you from being like, hey, whatever that is, we want that too?
Because it's not your decision anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore.
But like,
if you're Toyota, why can't you have all the stuff that makes a Lexus?
Well,
you can. But like it's the market share, because like Toyota's not marketing to people who would buy a Lexus.
Right. It's all about positioning.
You know what I'm saying?
It's all about positioning your product where you want to as the top dog. So like,
that's where I feel like right now the brand identities are all mushing when they need to be separated.
That's what I'm saying. I agree. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's too easy for it just to mush together.
Yeah. They have to try it. They have to certainly try.
If you're gonna mush, just merge.
Because previously. What they're relying on right now with the mergers they've gotten is basically like, we're just going to take Discmania and their fan base and let them operate as they were and just use that. Castoplast, we're going to take them, let them operate as they were basically, and use that fan base. What probably should happen.
Discmania wasn't a full acquisition, right?
I think it was just that they announced it was purchased.
I'll Google it.
But in any case, what I think they should do.
Yeah, they're claiming they remain independent with their own strategy. So who knows what that means?
Blah 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 blah. What they probably should do is be very intentional about where they're positioning brands. Like Hunter, if I were them, I would make. I agree. I would make like one a premium brand. I would make one of your. It's like Discmania having like the active line. I think that's super smart. I think
I would make that a different brand.
Yeah, I would make one like a more budget brand, and then I would take. Let's say you take brands like Latitude and Westside that kind of mush together. I would like really emphasize different, like there's different ways you can layer. You can layer in price point and quality, but you can also layer in just artwork style, which already happens to some extent, but you could go even heavier on it.
Let's turn Westside into Gyro.
Well, yeah, heck, you could do it. You could do a Gyro brand, but like, and they probably should. But you totally could be like, okay, we're gonna go with this brand. We're gonna go really heavy art, thought-based athletics type stuff, where like it's gonna appeal to them. This brand, we're gonna make all super clean, almost classic Innova style, where it, like they should take each thing and put it in its own arena so that they can all function alongside each other and serve a purpose, instead of just like blending together, because that will start to happen when you're getting all the boxes and they all feel like the same plastic. It's going to be tougher for the branding to stand out.
Well, it's for the last 5 years we've on our website. We just this year split it out because I realized new players don't understand it. But it always just said Trilogy, because to me, when I got into the sport, Team Trilogy, which is a separate entity, right? But they basically a separate entity, was such a huge thing. Basically, like the Lone Star Ranger team was Team Trilogy, where everyone and their mom was throwing all Trilogy and they were on Team Trilogy.
Yeah.
So to me, Trilogy was just the company.
Yeah.
Like Dynamic, Latitude, Westside, they were just one. They were one thing. So if you threw them, you threw Trilogy. Period. I didn't know anyone that threw, and I still don't, that throws only Dynamic, only Latitude, or only Westside.
There's no reason to.
No, because you throw all three because there's all one. Well, now I feel like if you take that mindset and then you add in Discmania and Castoplast, that's when things really start getting hairy. Because like, who's to say they're not going to buy out another company here in the next few years? And then like eventually it's just
Super
like it's not Trilogy, it's just like quintuple tree, whatever.
Right.
And everyone just blends together. I think it's very important to like establish, because in my head, Latitude fits that Innova classy bill.
Yeah, I agree.
So like make Latitude stamps Innova classy. Dynamic, I think, could be the thought space, more out there stamps. Like be a little more electric with your stamps, right? Have some fun. And then Westside, I think, could be your experimental brand. Because realistically, not that many people throw Westside. The molds are solid. I just don't really see that much.
Yeah.
And then Castoplast, I think, is your high-end brand. And Discmania is an interesting one because the Innova and Trilogy like never really collided.
Yeah, it's a very weird one.
So like Discmania, I think you try to make everyone forget you own them as much as possible.
That is another strategy. Is you could, I mean, it sounds like they're already trying to with that article, but like you could just be like, okay, Discmania is big enough on its own legs anyways. We just need to kind of like slowly let people forget that we exist.
Well, in my opinion, look, it's not rocket science, right? If you have someone like Thomas Ekstrom, I think is the main guy at Latitude, I believe is his name. Mm-hmm. He is surely smart enough to figure out how to make C-line plastic, like Champion plastic.
Yeah.
You think?
Now, for some reason,
Maybe not with robots.
now they probably love. I'm sure Innova use robots nowadays. They probably like Lucid more than C-line Champ, right? Because why else
colder,
would you?
man. You need that
Why
grip.
else would you choose that if you? You know what I'm saying? You want to put the best product out there, so they like Lucid more. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, Discmania, our goal is it's going to feel nothing like Trilogy plastic. We're going to make it as close to Star and Champion plastic as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like, however that works.
They're trying.
Well, S-Line, they got a long way to go.
I do wonder, like-
C-Line, they at times are close. S-Line, I mean, burn the ships and start over. We're not
feel
close
like
to Star yet.
The plastic thing is weird because if you look at like the golf club market, they're changing materials so often, or like trying at least. They did for a while. Now they've kind of like settled in where it's like, okay, we have carbon fiber. It's kind of the best. And we have this and that. But like the plastic thing is so weird because it's so easy to make new blends and like try different things. If I were a disc golf company, I would be pushing a new blend of plastic every single year because people will buy it. I mean, we're seeing Discraft probably be the leaders of that, at least with their Jawbreaker
Recently,
stuff, especially recently. But it's not that difficult. You'll get people riled up. They'll buy it.
But they're all still so similar.
But
There's so
even
many
tr- but
possibilities.
But like Z
But that's-
Jawbreaker,
but that's
I don't buy plastic at full price ever. For 5 years, I haven't bought plastic at full price unless I'm buying a stamp for Innova. I went out of my way to buy Z and
it
ESP
doesn't
Jawbreaker.
even matter
You're right,
if it's
they're
the
sick.
same. If it turns out similar, people will still buy it.
It has to look different.
No, I'm not saying from a consumer part. I'm saying that, like what you're saying, it's so easy to vary plastics, but for some reason in
I just
disc
don't
golf,
know
they don't experiment enough because they're all still so similar.
Right. Well,
The focus is on molds right now.
If you look
Yeah.
at Trilogy, it's like, okay, they came out with the Supreme plastic, and like maybe they're just like super conscious about quality control, but like they've been using the same. This year they've really, like, I think a lot of companies have been getting into it more because they've done like the Lucid Ice Orbit. The Orbit thing kind of started it up a little bit, I think, again. But for a while there, everybody was kind of settling in it. And I actually, as I'm saying this, thinking about it, I think Trilogy is kind of taking on this model more this year because they did like the Frost plastic, but like I'd keep doing that because
Because they have to come up with plastic for 8
you're just
different
gonna
companies.
keep
but then you get
That's true. The name committee is sweating. They're like, what are we gonna call this one?
That's what I'm saying. Is you gotta lean in of a one
like an
plastic.
SNL skit.
It doesn't have to be one. It doesn't have to be one for all. We come up with Supreme plastic. There is a company that gets this plastic.
Yeah.
Or maybe if you give it to Trilogy, then like Trilogy, if you want to keep operating them as one. But like,
So confusing.
That's the
giving
hard
them
thing.
to everything is sucks,
I'm like a
'cause-
pretty knowledgeable guy whenever it comes to disc. I would say I'm above average with disc knowledge, and I still don't know what plastic goes to what
try
company.
to
and
name.
all the
Let's
stuff they've
try
been
to
throwing
name
out.
all the.
name the
let's try-
see-through plastic of all three companies for Trilogy.
I mean, okay, so Lucid,
Good.
Yeah.
for Dynamic,
Yep.
and then
Latitudes.
Latitudes is I've never been good with Latitudes and names. I've just never really been interested in Latitude at all.
Like a Claymore. What plastic does a Claymore come
Latitude
in?
and West Side.
West Side's always the hardest for me.
Yeah, I had to be reminded of it last week.
I will admit I've never really been a trilogy person. This was a bad idea for me to bring this up. I feel like I know.
I'll give you the 2 options for Latitude. It's gold or Opto.
Oh yeah, it's Opto. Duh, Opto the River.
You're wrong. It's not gold. It's
Yeah,
VIP.
No, that's West Side. Dum dum. West Side's VIP.
No, you
and
said the
tournament.
see-through for all 3.
No, I said
he was giving
Latitude.
me
I'm
2.
giving him 2 options: gold or Opto.
I thought you were talking about
And
for.
then,
And then
I
West
remember
Side's VIP or tournament.
Call me
Yeah.
a dum-dum. I thought we were still talking about the see-through.
I was like, he was so confident. He was just blatantly wrong.
Yeah,
no,
I thought we were talking about the see-through.
I was saying
ones.
like Fusion.
No,
is gold.
gold is the one that I forget all the time.
Yeah.
That's
me
that
too.
one. And then the other one that's
Now,
really
what
weird,
if I hit you with Lucid Ice Orbit Chameleon?
that is the best part is they just do
And then
like
you
a-
have Fluid, you have
Well,
Frost.
then
I don't know what West Side's version of Frost is. Supreme and
is
Royal.
dynamic, right?
Supreme's dynamic. Royal line is
Latitude.
Latitude. West Side doesn't have it
they
yet.
don't have it.
Oh,
You got to retool those molds. That's expensive, man.
they're waiting for the new
for the
Matty
drop.
O disc, and they're gonna have the same plastic, but they're gonna call it something
Pedialyte. Pedialyte Harp.
That's such a fun
Because
plastic.
the
name.
baseline ones are classic.
Now we're getting too far.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
name.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
gonna do
classic
Well,
and prime.
No, prime.
and classic.
Yeah,
both
prime,
baseline.
classic, retro,
BT.
BT.
Nope. Retro and BT are 2 different companies. No, that's both.
That's both
What's Latitude?
That's both.
No. BT is West Side because BT hard harps.
I don't know that Latitude has a
They have to.
putter that's like pro line, like classic.
They have to. They have to have a name. That's.
See, that's what I'm saying. We
I've
know
been,
a lot
I have been
about
selling
discs.
these plastics for 5 years. I don't
That's
know
what,
them.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is we know a lot
up the
about this,
chart.
and
Pull
I
up the
can't
chart.
even get them straight. Like
Pull up the chart. What is? It's like if you have a Sense. No, what's
No.
the Sense plastic?
That's
Royal
like a-
Sense. That's like the new
yeah,
Royal.
that's the
one.
new Royal one.
What the heck?
What's a pure? What's a pure come in? Moonshine Pure.
Oh my gosh! Oh, I
Moonshine-
feel so stupid right now.
Oh,
and I haven't.
shoot.
The one I had in my bag was. A
I thought the
Pico
plastic
one.
was moonshine.
Well, it is, but there's a
Oh,
blank-
medium. They do like medium and
Is
they
that
just do
all it
medium,
is?
hard, and soft. I think that's what they call.
No, it's got to be something else.
Because I think
It's not Moonshine Medium. It's
That-
Moonshine something.
Yeah, you're right.
0.
zero. So it's like 0 medium or 0 hard.
What does that mean? What is?
So they have Retro, 0, Opto. Let me just read you all their plastics. Okay, because I have the whole
This is
plastic.
just trilogy in
Th-
general?
No, this is just
This is
Latitude.
like the whole-
Just Latitude?
This
Okay.
is just Latitude. Okay, buckle up. Opto, Gold, Frost, Opto X, Gold X, Bio Gold, Opto Ice, Gold Ice, Opto Air, Grand, Sense, Opto Moonshine, Retro, 0 hard, 0 medium, 0 soft.
Yeah, because
That's
You
Latitude.
are kidding.
Grand and Sense.
You
What's
are
the 2
kidding
different
me.
Royal plastics for
Why
Dynamic?
so many
Supreme and what's the other
Optos?
I think they're both just Supreme because the Supreme
one?
Judge.
Scroll down.
No, this is
That's
just
the thing. You
Latitude.
make it so overwhelming for people who are newer to the sport. You make it overwhelming for me.
I know, like
I've been playing for
I've-
like 7 years.
I've never really been caught in a place where I didn't know plastic types until like the last few years.
Yeah, exactly.
And
No,
Trevor's the
I'm
one
with you
pushing them
there.
to get more.
Yeah, but I think what I want them to do is make more, but then discontinue other ones because
So maybe I don't.
Okay,
know
so
what they should
Dynamic
do.
has all of them together.
I'm kind of questioning everything I said now.
Yeah,
now
'cause
I feel overwhelmed because Trilogy is the
They've been
exception.
doing it.
Trilogy is just the exception lately, man. They've been going hard in the paint.
Origio is West Side's baseline.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Like really baseline. And then you have BT that's like 0 and classic.
Yeah.
And then you have
Origio?
Mega Soft that's like their super softs. And Revive, Bio Gold, Fusion Biofusion, Elasto Frostline Fluid, VIP Air, Opto Air, Lucid Air, VIP Opto Lucid, Tournament Gold Fusion, Moonshine. I think they're all just Moonshine. There we go. They're all just
There we
Moonshine.
go.
There we go.
They all
Come
agreed that
on.
Moonshine was like such a fun way to do a cold plastic.
They don't have their Supreme plastic in here.
Just look up the judge.
Supreme
Trilogy's
Judge
confusing. It's all a trilogy has always been a bear that I don't want to poke.
Images. I think it's just called the Supreme Judge. Classic Supreme.
So that's-
So they just stuck with their baseline name.
Yeah.
Stuck.
The trilogy people
Classic.
are coming after us hard in the comments right now.
That's fine.
You guys
and they are strong.
you guys are in a cult.
It is. That's how it always felt like whenever I was like growing in disc golf was that people who threw trilogy were like in a cult.
Well, that's
'Cause
how
nobody just had,
MVP felt like that too.
I'm so
because
conflicted
like few
too.
people had a trilogy disc in their bag. No, their bag was all
well,
trilogy.
here's the thing too. MVP, they have MVP Axiom Streamline, but all 3 are Neutron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but the problem is,
And Cosmic
it's
Neutron.
very conflicting because
Yeah.
you have this situation where we're like, they need to have individual brands in order for it to make sense. But then it's like we're so confused that we're like, we need them to have the same.
Well, no, but the
classic
problem
names.
is because listen, we didn't just talk about Castaplast and Discmania in there because those are so separate in our mind.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gotta keep it that way. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because I
Keep
don't
our
want to.
plastics
I don't
separate.
want to be like so. It's Lucid, Opto, C-Line, K1, and VIP.
Yeah.
That's where
was
we're gonna
impressive.
get.
You
That
rattled
was
them off.
impressive.
Thank
I'm
you.
impressed.
That was impressive.
You got to keep it separate because like Trilogy, it's gonna take years to separate those from people like me's mom.
Decades
Yeah.
even for me.
Yeah.
Maybe even decades.
I think I'll lose my memory before I even.
So you
get
have
there.
two ways to
I think
go.
Trilogy just gave me dementia.
Trilogy, you can go two ways. You can either, and they need to decide fast.
Now.
They
Give them an
either need to-
ultimatum. Tell
they-
them when.
Tomorrow.
By the end of tomorrow. You have 24 hours.
They either have to,
Or else.
they either have to like really split and like, no, these are three separate companies, or just they're all Lucid. They're
Yeah.
all classic. I mean, Dynamics the one I'm most comfortable
You've
with,
been
but
given your ultimatum.
they're all Latitude. I feel like is the OG, so they're all Opto, just like an Opto felon.
I know Latitude's the OG, but in my head, Dynamic was always like the king
because
of the roost.
Let's
Dynamic
pick.
was
Let's-
marketed to the U.S.
Well,
a lot
let's
heavier.
pick which ones
Yeah,
would
that
we
makes
like
sense.
want to keep of the
Well,
trilogy plastics.
Dynamic's the one I know the best.
Yeah, Dynamic. I feel like
But
is the
as
Opto
just-
sounds cooler than Lucid. to
Opto
me.
does. Gold also
really, I
sounds
think
better than
Lucid
Fusion.
sounds cooler than Opto.
Lucid makes more sense.
Yeah, I like
No,
Lucid.
Opto because you can see through it. Optical. We can all agree VIP and Turnman are the worst.
They're
Yeah,
the
they're
worst.
terrible.
So
They're
go,
stupid.
West Side's gone. So now we're just between Opto and Lucid, baby.
I like Lucid. I think Lucid sounds
You
cooler.
would, dude.
Oh, my bad.
Well, let's look up the definition of the name. Lucid.
What does that
Lucid's
ever matter,
probably
dude?
literally means like see-through.
Innovus is
Expressed
star.
clearly, easy to understand.
Clearly, clear.
Wow.
Opto definition.
It's like having a lucid dream.
Opto is combining the combined word from optic or vision. So opto doesn't really mean
Yeah, it's not a
anything.
real
It's not a
word.
real word, which I kind of like more. You don't have to worry
That's
about
cool,
it.
they came up with it.
their own word, and it makes sense.
Well, it's-
What
Did they,
about
though? Is it a word in
Lopto?
Sweden?
What about Loopdo?
Good question.
Yeah, it might be a Swedish
What
word.
about Austed?
Nope.
No, that didn't work.
Let's stick with Loopdo.
Loopdo.
Yeah.
Loopy.
Loopy loop.